Welcome back to the My First Rodeo podcast, the show that asks really cool, interesting, and famous people about the various firsts on their paths to success. Today is no exception. We have a really cool comedian, actor, even a singer at times, Rio Paris. That's Paris, Rio Paris, who is a New York comedian who got his career started, at least in most recent history, in Tampa, Florida, and is just breaking out, doing all kinds of cool things, including performing at the famous Apollo in New York. He has a TV pilot he's working on, and we will talk all about that in a little while. But first, I like to get the show started with something interesting, something provocative, and something good, because I think those are good things to have in our life, and there's not enough of them. There's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of fanfare, but truly interesting things that are interesting, things that are provocative. That is, in my mind anyway, they provoke thought. They don't tell us what to think. They don't even play into a way that we necessarily already think. They just encourage us to think, maybe even, I dare say, discuss things with other people in a way that we're not trying to persuade or what have you. And then something good. There's so much good in the world, and we don't talk about that enough. So in terms of something interesting, and I guess it doesn't really matter how this came to me. It's come to me a few different ways in a few different places. And sometimes it seems like it's just limited to a particular context. And the context in which it was first introduced to me was in the context of a divorce. When you have children, if the people that get divorced have children, as was the case for me. And you're given, if you've gone through this experience, you know what I'm talking about, whether it's a class that your jurisdiction requires or whether it's just information. You're given advice about how to speak about the other parent so that the children do not feel divided. And it occurred to me recently in another context that this is really good advice for all people, all time, that are raising children. I think it has to do with more than just parenting, but it really has to do with our identity. And our identities come in so many ways from our parents, and not just from mom presents the mom and dad presents the dad in a traditional family model. Of course, it could be other setups as well, but let's take the traditional one for this moment. But it's how the other parent refers to their spouse, if in fact they're married, or the other parent in whatever context it is, whether they're still in each other's lives other than as parents or not. And let me say it more clearly. Children are half of each parent. That's how we see ourselves. If you think yourself, you are half your mom and you are half your dad. Doesn't mean that both of those parents were very present in your life. It doesn't mean that you have a positive impression of them. It doesn't mean that you don't love one or like one more than you like the other, or maybe you absolutely dislike one or absolutely dislike both of them. But I guess that is the point. How we see our parents is, at least as a starting point, doesn't mean you can't get through it with some degree of soul searching and therapy and other tools. But as a starting point, it's how we see ourselves. And so if you're, take divorced parents, for example, if they do not like each other and the kids have a perspective that neither parent likes the other, then they are half of dad, who mom thinks is a jerk, and half of mom, who dad thinks is not a nice person. If that's the perception that they have, then all of them is not good. And they have to start from that deficit. So it's just a good reminder, certainly for those of us who are divorced parents, that we should be honoring the other parent, regardless of whatever actual injuries there are, regardless of how we actually feel about the person, for the benefit of the child who is half of them. And if you're in a house where both parents are there, for goodness sakes, make sure that you're honoring each other. Make sure that you're talking positively about each other. Make sure that you're giving the children examples of things that are great about the other parent. Sometimes we go into this sitcom sort of way of being where there's more teasing and more passive aggressive and more punchlines than there are praise and accolades. So make sure to mix some of those in so the child has that identity. I think that's interesting. It's interesting to me. I have 5 kids to raise. And it's just really important when you see the impact that how you portray the other parent and how the other parent portrays you can have on a child. I was thinking about this, and maybe it's provocative. I hope it's provocative. I was in a bookstore recently and went down the aisle of leadership books, and there are a lot of leadership books. And some of them are really good, and some of them are very generic, and some of them you can read the title or the index, and you pretty much have read the whole book. But be that as it may, there are a lot of leadership books, and it occurred to me there are essentially virtually no books on following. That's right. There's no books on following. So if everyone is buying these leadership books, everyone is reading the leadership books, everyone is aspiring to be a leader, seeing themselves as a leader, who are we leading? There really should be some books on following that people actually read. I'm sure there's books about how people should follow, or at least chapters in the leadership books. But we really have lost the art of following. I think the military does it in a certain way. You can debate whether it's a good way or a bad way, but it's a way that's worked for many years. Not sure that necessarily works in every aspect of life outside of the military. But outside of the military, there's not a lot of great examples of how to follow in a way that's not seen as demeaning or dictatorial, but is actually, I want to be a follower. I do think, there's certainly aspects of the Bible, servant leadership, where you are leading and following at the same time. But it just occurred to me that the magnitude of books in the bookstore that deal with leadership is huge. And does that mean everybody's a leader? Everybody wants to be a leader? That if you don't want to be a leader, there's something wrong with you? Because there needs to be followers. I would say, 2 followers for every leader, at least. So give that some thought. We should probably each be followers to some degree. And perhaps if we're given the opportunity to lead in a given context, whether it's family or work or community organization, do that at the same time where we're truly trying to follow. Because if everyone's a leader, no one's a leader. Something good, nonprofit centers. I think nonprofit centers are good. I know in Northeast Florida, there's the Nonprofit Center of Northeast Florida. And in whatever community you're in, there is probably a nonprofit center, which is, for lack of a better word, the clearinghouse for best practices for nonprofit organizations, usually a member organization that other nonprofits can join and can collaborate rather than compete, and can learn best practices and can compete for grants collaboratively rather than competitively in many instances. And certainly a resource that I would suggest if you're part of a nonprofit, if you're on the board of a nonprofit, that you see if your nonprofit is a member of your local nonprofit center. And if someone comes to you and they want to create a nonprofit, because lots of people have great ideas, but lots of nonprofits fail, the nonprofit center is a good way to see who's doing what in the community so that you make sure you're not creating an organization that already exists. Perhaps there's an aspect of what you want to do that's either already being done better, or perhaps already being done but not as well, and you could bring something to the table rather than creating a new organization. Because frankly, it costs a lot of money to create and maintain and sustain and run profitably a good nonprofit, a good community organization of that sort. And a lot of times you can bring an idea to an existing nonprofit rather than creating an organization that oftentimes just creates a fundraiser or fundraising to employ 1 or 2 people without really moving the needle on a particular issue. So I commend nonprofit centers to you in your community. I commend the Nonprofit Center of Northeast Florida to you if you're in the Jacksonville, St. Johns County, Nassau County area. And I think those are good organizations that you may not know about, but you have an opportunity to learn about. So I think that's good. And now this is me talking to comedian, actor Rio Paris. welcome to the My First Rodeo podcast, man. Thanks for being with me.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad to have you, and I know you're ripping and running. It sounds like you got off a train not too long ago.
Yeah, a little bit ago doing the train thing.
All right.
It's been a while since I hopped on the bus, but I'm open to it if the directions require that.
It's always good for material, isn't it?
Sure thing. Oh, 100%.
That's funny. Well, how are you enjoying the New York scene? I'm so impressed with what you've been able to accomplish in a relative short period of time. You were killing it in Tampa. How's that transition been? And man, the things you're doing are incredible.
Thank you. So the transition has been pretty good. I was fortunate enough to do a showcase in Tampa in front of Bob Sumner. Bob Sumner is the co-creator of Def Comedy Jam.
Absolutely.
Created the show Laugh Mobs Laugh Tracks on True TV. He has produced a whole bunch of comedy shows. He's the star maker, Bernie Mac, Cyril Underwood, Dave Chappelle.
And now Rio Paris.
Yeah, and there are other Laugh Mob rising stars: Rashawn Reese, Anthony Oakes, Apple Brown Betty, Mason King, just to name a few. But he definitely has assembled some really funny comics that hopefully are going to kind of usher in this new wave, I would say.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, you hear about a lot of people going up to New York and coming back very quickly for whatever reason. And so far, I'm sure it's not been a totally upward trajectory every minute of the day, but you're just moving on the right path, aren't you?
Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, I would be lying if I said that times don't get hard sometimes, especially being away from my little ones.
Yeah.
But said it's the hardest part.
I bet.
And also coming to a new scene. But fortunately, I had my buddy Jared Waters out here. Me and him came up in Tampa together, as well as Cam Bertrand and Jonas Presendu. But Jared's been here for about 6 years. So he introduced me to some people as well. And now we have some more Tampa comics that have moved to New York. So John Jacobs, we got JJ Curry, we got Farzan Maradi, we got Tony Thatts. So
that's
Tampa
some good stuff.
Is getting love out here.
Need to get my man Ron Hortman and Sloan up there. Those are some good dudes as well.
Beast, absolutely. I miss y'all very much so.
Yeah, well, you fit in with that group well. I would say, and I don't know the Tampa scene as well as you do, but those two guys I just mentioned and you epitomize what a good comedy community is. I mean, you're supportive of each other. You're funny. You're relational. You're kind. You take time to speak to new guys and are always willing to listen to the old guys. I mean, how did you develop those skills as you became a comedian?
So I've always been someone who just enjoyed being around others, speaking to others. In high school, my senior year, I won Homecoming King. And then prom, I won Best All Around and Best Personality. So I would say I'm a people's person, but I consider myself the most social loner that you could ever meet.
Okay.
So I just have a genuine interest in how people are doing and about their life. And I think because it's genuine, a lot of people try to force relationships and kind of approach conversations like, this is just something I have to do.
Right.
Wherein I believe if it's genuine, then it's kind of second nature to engage with others and you don't even think twice about it. So when there's a new yeah, when there's a new comic, there's some advice I wanted. So if I can impart any knowledge or wisdom, if you will, that I may have, then I'm all for it.
I like that. By the way, for our listeners' benefit, this is an incredible conversation. I wish it was visible to our listeners, because I am watching my man Rio walk down the street of New York with a big black hoodie inside another black hoodie because it's a cold day. And all right, he's always wearing bright colors underneath, so I would be disappointed if he wasn't. But so if you hear him being a little distracted or maybe a horn beeping, this is just the New York vibe. So it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Live from New York.
Live from New York, indeed. Speaking of which, yeah, no, absolutely. So, well, actually, I want to dig a little deeper into what you just said, because I want to talk about, your backstory, because you are a kind-hearted person. There's a couple different ways to thank you. There's a couple different ways to come up that way. One is to have great examples of that, and then sometimes the other is the opposite. You have such unpleasant circumstances, and sometimes a combination of both that somehow God works through it and kindness comes out of it. So what's your deal, man? Where'd you get so kind?
I would say definitely, my father was in Alaska. He would only come home 1 month out of the year until I was 9. But due to his job, but he was very kind, and my mother's very kind as well. My mother pretty much worked in the school system most of my life, and then unfortunately she had some health issues, and she stopped being able to work in the school system. But a lot of the kids or students considered her their mother, and she always had a genuine concern for their well-being and gave that love and nurturing that some of them really seemed like they were missing. So I do believe that I had great examples of kindness from the very beginning, and I was also taught to treat others the way that you wanted to be treated. So
that's nice. You don't see enough of that in comedy, so thanks for bringing it. What was your dad doing up in Alaska?
He had a job with the government. Yeah.
All right. Is that all we get? That's okay. I was figured it was something like I don't know. They do natural resource drilling, rigging, some sort of offshore fishing. Could have been any of that.
Yeah. No, none of that.
No, none of that. All right. We'll leave that alone. He might be in witness protection or something. So let's talk about your first rodeo in comedy. I know your backstory includes hip hop and singing. I don't know who. I know you still do some of that. Tell us how you got started in entertainment and how it dovetailed into comedy.
How I got started in entertainment?
Yes.
So in entertainment, basically, what happened is me and my dad would reenact scenes from comedy films when we would be riding in the car, whether that was House Party or Which Way Is Up.
All right.
Just various films. And I really enjoyed that. And then I would be funny in class from time to time. I wasn't a class clown by any stretch of the imagination, but I could say something that would make the class laugh. But I never thought that I would be doing stand-up. But I would also watch, Martin was my favorite show. We'll watch Def Comedy Jam. I will watch Comic View. And I rapped also. So that was the dream for a very long time, to become a famous rapper. And I did some battles on a national level, but I tried stand-up for the first time on my birthday in 2011, to July 20th, and it went horrible. No laughs. I thought it was going to go good. It did not. My mom was in the crowd.
Oof.
Again, it was my birthday, so I felt horrible after that, but I tried a few more times. And then in 2012, I tried to pursue rap heavy, like a full year. Just let me try this again. And then didn't pan out the way I envisioned it. In 2013, January of 2013, I went to the Tampa Improv open mic, and they had it every week. And in 3 years, I missed it twice. Side Splitters was very instrumental in, I feel like, helping me become a better comic as well.
And what happened? What was the difference between 2011 when you gave it a go and 2013? What did you? What was different in terms of what you brought to the table and why you were able to get more positive results and keep it going?
I think my mindset in 2011 was not it's comedy or nothing. So, because I still had rap kind of being a rapper in the back of my mind, and well, what if? A lot of what ifs. So I think in 2013 I let go of those what ifs, and I said I was going to fully dedicate myself to stand up. Then in
I'm sorry.
2014, found out that I had a baby on the way.
Okay, that's funny.
So, that was really the the time to say, hey, I identify with 50 Cent naming this album Get Rich or Die Trying. Yeah. Not that the objective was to get rich, but it was definitely to turn my life around and at least my child's life, or give her a better life. Now there's 3 little ones.
Yeah, you got twins now, right?
Twins now as well, yeah. So Harvey is the oldest, she's 8, and Riker and Ariella are the twins, they're 4.
Nice. So that, I mean, obviously that could go a couple of different ways. You go get a job at the cell phone store and bring in a paycheck, or you lean in heavy to comedy, and you did more of the latter, didn't you?
More of the latter. I did have a 9-to-5. I was actually working for Microsoft.
Okay, I was pretty close.
Yeah. So that was, but that obviously wasn't the dream. Yeah. So you do what, like you said, what pays the bills until the dream seems like it's more attainable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, let's talk about some of your first rodeos, and let's start with one of the most recent ones. You've done a couple of shows at the Apollo.
Yeah, all thanks to Bob. He's the comedy curator at the Apollo. So November is when I performed there for the first time, and I closed that show out. And then May, that was November of last year. May of this year, I actually hosted the show.
Wow.
So that was fun as well.
Well, let's talk about that. So, I mean, we all know the reputation of the Apollo and how difficult it can be, and how they're very clear on whether they like you or don't like you and how they're feeling that night. So you have to know you can't necessarily control the outcome, and you know it's either going to go really good or really bad, probably not really medium. So what do you feel like? You're backstage. What's that feel like?
So the thing is, this is fortunately, this is a show. So amateur night is when you have to worry about getting booed and the Sandman coming out.
Okay.
And all that good stuff, or bad stuff if you end up being the performer when he comes out. But fortunately, this is just a show where you have the host and then you have 3 comics that perform.
A little more controllable, huh?
Controllable. Nobody's looking to boo. The comics are funny.
All right.
So I don't know. It would be interesting to see how I was received. I think it's very important to pinpoint kind of I don't want to say the concept of the show of what amateur night is, but I think the audience kind of comes in with a certain mindset. I know if I boo, and enough people boo with me, that Sandman's gonna come out, get this person off the stage. Yeah. So whereas in this is, I'm coming to a comedy show. And I know that there's no rappers, there's no singers, there's no one doing something else, tap dancing or playing an instrument. So I think it's because of the kind of show, that's why I was more relaxed and just wanted to have a good performance, I would say. I wasn't really worried about people booing. Yeah. I have seen them be silent, though.
Yeah, that's sometimes worse, isn't it?
Yeah. Brutal.
So how did it go?
Very good.
Okay.
Very good. I've been very fortunate. Bob had me as a part of 9 other comics that filmed their half-hour specials in Newark last August, and I was able to get my first standing ovation at the end of the set.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, things have. Comedy-wise, I have 0 complaints. All of the Laugh Mob family and just comics that are really cool out here that I've come across. It's comedy-wise, everything has been really good.
That's outstanding. That's outstanding. Yes. And you had some TV and some movie opportunities, and you even got one of your own that you're working on right now, called Quit Job Eve, which is I'm interested in it because I understand the premise and the time period is the time before you quit your job. It doesn't strike me as having the longest longevity prospect if it's all about one day or one night or 1 week. What am I missing there?
So the idea is going to be showing different people at different jobs.
I got you. So it's not one character.
Not one character, no. No, although I would like to be in different workplaces quitting. The plan is to expand it to, at that point now it's unlimited. Mm-hmm. So whether it's a janitor, whether it's a teacher, whether it is a police officer, whatever the case may be, it's just the day before they have the worst day ever. Yeah. And then the following day they quit because I can't. Yeah. I can't keep doing this.
I'll tell you. I'll give you one if you want it. And again, the last thing you want is unsolicited advice. So it's not advice. It's just an anecdote. So this one. My day gig is I'm a lawyer, and this one lawyer who I started practicing with. He was at another firm, but young professional, went to a good law school, was at a really big sort of silk stocking firm. And he just didn't fit in and decided to leave. And, there's hierarchy within a law firm. You got the big senior partners and you got these important clients coming in and out. He decided on his last day, he would throw himself a going away party and only invite the support staff. And he would bring in a mariachi band and a margarita machine. So in the middle of the day in this silk stocking firm, he threw himself a huge ass going away party. And if you wanted to interview him for your show, I'd be happy to see if you can't build a character around that.
Oh, that is hilarious. I would love to.
It's pretty funny. Jason Burnett. I'll do a shout out to Jason Burnett. He went out with a bang.
You have to. Not every job that I've quit have I done that, but especially nothing that elaborate. But I've definitely felt good about kind of my parting words and just knowing that I wasn't going to be going in at least 5 days a week anymore.
I guess that's a good thing about having your passion elsewhere. You're not really worried about references going forward.
No,
That's too funny. That's too funny. So, what's coming up next for you? What's the next big thing that you got on the horizon? I know you're doing some Fresh Faces work. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so the movie I was in is What the Hell. That did very good. What the Hell's on Tubi. What THA Hell, that's Sketcher Films, Productions, and King Cobra Enterprises. I was on the TV show Relative Justice on the CW. So those have been kind of good launching pads as well. What's coming up? All I can say right now is going to be some definite TV. I will be on. People have the opportunity to see me.
All right.
On their TV screens, yeah.
This sounds about as cryptic as your dad's Alaska story. Are you you're not at liberty to share either?
Yeah, I mean yeah, well, my dad like literally said if I to the family, to my mom, and then she passed it on. Like if I told you what I did, I would have to kill you. So that was a real thing.
I got
my
you.
father, with entertainment wise, I mean, I just did because they're Funny Comedy Festival in DC.
Yeah.
So that is with Jeff Friday, and Nicole Friday, and so ABFF, American Black Film Festival, the biggest Black film festival in the country, one of the biggest film festivals in the country. They've been doing that every year in Miami, and for over 20 years. And they decided to have their first comedy festival this year. And Bob was able to put together a showcase. So that went really well. So Jeff Friday, Bob Sumner, some other people instrumental in putting it all together is Jeff Billingsley and Bobby Duckett. And they all have these various connections.
Good.
So,
and they also see you as the talent that you are. What's the next step with your special, and how do you feel about it?
So, waiting on a home for the special. Should know that fairly soon. Hopefully within like the next 2 months. So looking forward to that. I can't wait to announce whatever platform it ends up being on. TV wise, what I can say, stand up will be a very integral part of everything going on. Yeah.
Perfect.
And if I end up like having a character on a show or on Quit Job Eve, if that is a thing, then that'll be cool. Also, a tour. There's talk of a tour.
Perfect.
So can go to different cities and really start meeting people all across the country. That's really something that I am looking forward to big time.
Good. Well, we look forward to getting you back to Florida. I look forward to working with you again. And
100%.
Tell before I let you go, and you're probably freezing your ass off out there in New York Street.
It's all good.
Tell me some of the best comedy advice you ever got. What's some of the best advice you got coming up?
Best comedy advice I ever got. One thing in the beginning, I didn't realize that I kind of had runoff sentences as opposed to jokes. So it was more of an epiphany. I had Jeff Louise, a very good friend of mine, comic. He was like, there's no punchline. And for whatever reason, as I was writing, I just wasn't recognizing that. And then that kind of coincided with Trim the Fat. So just get to the punchline as quickly as possible. Way too jumbled, so many unnecessary words. So that's definitely one thing. Trim the fat, make sure there's a punchline, which seems so obvious. But I soaked that in. Perform in front of 3 people the way that you would in front of hundreds or thousands.
Yeah.
Sometimes I see comics not doing that. And my mindset is whether it's a paid show or not, the people that are in front of you are at least ready to laugh and they're attentive. So to not give them your all, I think does a huge disservice to them because they don't have to be there either.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you're creating bad habits or missing the opportunity to create some good habits.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. The last thing I would say advice-wise that I've been given is do not write jokes that cater to one audience.
That's good. Yeah. I could see you working all different kinds of rooms, and your material is going to work wherever you are.
That is a very, it's funny. Give me 1 second.
Is he about to sneeze on camera? This is a first on the My First Rodeo podcast. I got a man sneezing and blowing his nose in the streets of New York, which I think is legally required. You have to do that periodically if anyone's not traveled to New York. You have to spit, sneeze, or urinate. Isn't that required, Rio?
You never listen. People are doing sometimes all 3.
Some fluid has to come out of an orifice periodically. We're glad to have clocked one in for you.
Oh yeah. I think that I was saying when I first started, I was saying the N word a lot, and Jonas that I mentioned earlier, he pointed it out to me. I was like, no. And I was. And that's another thing. Record yourself. Also great advice. Get the video. If you can get the video for whatever reason, at least get the audio. Video is more beneficial because you can see if maybe you made a facial expression that you never make, or maybe it was a certain movement that you made. And of course, that's not going to be captured with audio. So, but yeah, that's something, other advice that I got, like using that word way too much. And I hear it sometimes with other comics, and it's just not good when you're trying to not necessarily be mainstream, but I mean, there's Black people that don't want to hear the word over and over again either.
Right.
Doesn't even have to be a diverse audience.
Yeah. No, that's good advice. I don't know that anyone's ever given me that advice, but I think
that's okay.
I hope I never get the advice to not use the N-word enough or too much.
All the times I've heard you say it, I wanted to pull you to the side.
Well, yeah, you know. Well, this will be that time. I'll remember it forever. No, I would never. Got to be authentic. It's got to be authentic. But,
that's right.
No, I think
that's right. How's your daughter doing?
Everybody's good. Yeah, I guess you met. Let's see, that was Samantha that night when we were down in Tampa. She's doing fine. She's doing
Beautiful.
just fine. She's a freshman in high school, and she's doing all right. So
wow.
Yeah, crazy.
Okay.
Crazy. She's my baby too. I got 4 other ones.
You have how many other ones?
I have 5 altogether, but mine are old, man.
Oh, wow.
I got started early.
I love it. Good.
Yeah, they're doing all right. And I'm glad to see you are on your way. I know you spend a lot of time when you can with them, and you're Facebooking them every night, and that's a beautiful thing.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
I say Facebook. I'm sounding like an old man. You're FaceTiming them, I believe, is what you're doing.
That
right?
is okay. Yeah, I do.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Well, brother, I'm so excited for your success. I love to see good things happen to good people. I can't wait to continue to follow your just your path to success. I look forward to working with you again. And thanks for joining us on the My First Rodeo podcast. Well, that was me talking to Rio Paris. He is a funny guy. If you've not checked him out already, make sure that you Google him and follow him on social media, Rio Paris, Paris. He is just one of the funniest guys, one of the nicest guys who's doing the hard work. And it's so good to see someone like him who is growing as a human being and as a comedian, who's paid his dues, who's kind to other comedians, and who is getting some really good opportunities right now and is getting followers and getting all the things that comedy clubs and theaters value in order to sell seats. But he's also really, really funny. And he changes his material regularly, and he's just getting funnier and funnier. And I just love to see someone like that succeeding. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Rio Paris. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. I hope you'll share it with other people. I hope that you will subscribe to the My First Rodeo podcast, and I hope you'll come back and join us again next time on the My First Rodeo podcast. My First Rodeo.